Mother-in-law tries to shame me over this, but then gets mad BC. I made her blush instead, and oh boy. My mother-in-law's fork clattered onto her plate, the sound slicing through the dinner chatter like a guillotine. "You're wearing that to my gala," she sneered, her eyes raking over my thrift store dress with the precision of a hawk spotting a field mouse. I grinned, ready to flip the script on her public execution. The dining room was a battlefield disguised as a family gathering. Crystal chandeliers cast a soft glow over the mahogany table, where my husband, Tom, sat rigid, his eyes darting between me and his mother. Eleanor, my sister-in-law, Claire, hid a smirk behind her wineglass, clearly thrilled at the prospect of drama. Eleanor, with her perfectly coiffed silver hair and pearls that screamed old money, had been gunning for me since the day Tom brought me home. To her, I was the scrappy outsider who dared to marry into her pristine lineage. Tonight, her annual charity gala loomed, and my choice of attire, a bold emerald green dress I'd found for $15 at a vintage shop, was apparently a personal affront. "You look like you raided a costume shop," Eleanor continued, her voice dripping with disdain. The table fell silent, all eyes on me. Tom's knuckles whitened around his glass, but he said nothing. As usual, I could feel the weight of judgment, the unspoken agreement among Eleanor's socialite friends that I didn't belong, but I wasn't here to cower. "Costume shop," I said, leaning back with a laugh that cut through the tension. "Eleanor, this dress has more character than half the gowns at your gala. It's vintage, sustainable, and unlike some people's attitudes, actually has a story worth telling." A gasp rippled through the room. Claire choked on her wine, her eyes wide with delight. Eleanor's face flushed a shade of pink I'd never seen on her, a mix of shock and something else, maybe embarrassment. I pressed on, sensing my opening. "You know, I found it at a shop that donates proceeds to women's shelters. I figured, why not wear something that does good instead of just looking good?" The table was a frozen tableau, every guest waiting for Eleanor's counterattack. She opened her mouth, then closed it, her composure cracking like thin ice. I'd hit a nerve. Eleanor prided herself on her philanthropy, her gala raising thousands for local charities. To imply my $15 dress aligned more with her values than her designer wardrobe, that was a blow she hadn't seen coming. Tom finally found his voice. "Lila, maybe we should—" "No, Tom," I said, my tone light but firm. "Let's talk about this. Eleanor, you've always said the gala is about helping people, not showing off. So why does it matter what I wear? As long as I'm there to support the cause." Her eyes narrowed, but the flush on her cheeks deepened. "It's about respect," she snapped. "For tradition, for our family's reputation." "Respect." I raised an eyebrow, my heart pounding but my voice steady. "Respect is earning your place, not demanding it. I'm here, married to your son, supporting your work. Isn't that enough?" Claire let out a low whistle, breaking the silence. "She's got a point. Mom." Eleanor shot her daughter a glare that could have curdled milk, but Claire just grinned, clearly enjoying the show. The other guests shifted uncomfortably, their forks hovering over untouched plates. I felt a surge of adrenaline, the kind that comes from standing your ground when everyone expects you to fold. The truth was, I hadn't always been this bold. Growing up in a small apartment with a single mom who worked double shifts, I'd learned early that confidence was a choice, not a gift. When I met Tom, a quiet engineer with a heart as big as his mother's ego, I knew I'd have to fight to carve out my place in his world. Eleanor had made that clear from day one, with her subtle digs about my humble background and her not-so-subtle hints that I wasn't good enough for her son. But I loved Tom, and I wasn't about to let her shame me into submission. Eleanor leaned forward, her voice low and dangerous. "You think you're clever, don't you?" Turning my words against me. "I think I'm honest," I replied, meeting her gaze. "And I think you're upset because you know I'm right. You can't stand that I'm not playing by your rules." The room held its breath. Eleanor's eyes flickered with something new respect. Maybe, or at least the grudging acknowledgement that I wasn't backing down. Then, To everyone's shock, she laughed. It was a sharp, brittle sound, but it was a laugh. "You're insufferable," she said, shaking her head. "But you've got nerve. I'll give you that." I couldn't help it, I grinned. "I'll take nerve over pearls any day." The table erupted in nervous laughter, the tension breaking like a wave. Tom reached for my hand under the table, squeezing it gently, his eyes warm with pride. Claire raised her glass in a mock toast, and even Eleanor's friends exchanged glances that seemed less hostile, more intrigued. The rest of the dinner passed in a blur of small talk and cautious smiles. Eleanor didn't apologize, she wasn't the type, but she didn't attack again either. When the gala arrived the next night, I wore my emerald dress with my head high, and to my surprise, Eleanor didn't comment. Instead, she introduced me to her friends as Lila, my daughter-in-law, who keeps us all on our toes. It wasn't a hug or a heartfelt moment, but it was progress. As the weeks went by, I noticed a shift. Eleanor still critiqued my cooking, my manners, my everything. But there was a new edge to it, a challenge, not a dismissal. One evening, she even asked about the thrift shop where I'd found my dress, claiming she was curious about sustainable fashion. I didn't buy it entirely, but I saw it for what it was, a truce, however fragile. Looking back, that dinner wasn't just about a dress or a comeback. It was about claiming my place in a world that didn't want to make room for me. It was about showing that respect isn't owed. It's earned through courage, honesty, and a willingness to stand up for what matters. Eleanor and I would never be best friends, but we'd found a strange kind of understanding, built on mutual defiance and the tiniest spark of admiration. So, what do you think? Was I right to push back? Or should I have let Eleanor's jab slide for the sake of peace? Share your thoughts. I'd love to hear where you stand. And